of the Bonnet Chronicles. I am your host, Kalari Gamer Chick, aka 10. Just scrolling down here so that you don't see me yelling at people, but I do want to get things started by addressing that because this morning I was already heated. I'm not going to hide the fact that I'm a human. I'm full of emotion. And within the last Bonnet Chronicles since Tuesday night, where I did it because we had so many lives lost to injustice, a 13-year-old child was murdered by Chicago police. And I seen a lot of people with resistor or resist in their bios. A lot of people who will put BLM in their name on Twitter and hashtag with some really fucked up takes about this child and what he was wearing and how he messed it up for the cop and his family. And so I chose, like I said in my earlier video, violence because I'm sick of this. The whole resistor thing was really shady and suspect 4 or 5 years ago when it first cropped up. I did it for a little bit till I realized, no, I don't want to be associated with that hashtag. And I was grateful. Why? Because every freaking follow back resistance was full of people who were troublesome, including misogynistic asshole guys, women who were petitioning guys and girls for things that they really shouldn't be petitioning us for. And it was just a mess of people using the hashtag to get clout. So today I went off because not one, not two, but over a dozen people were having trash takes on the fact that a 13-year-old child lost their lives. And if you've seen the video, which unless you purposely avoided watching it, I even have a clip of it on my own timeline because people retweeted it at me. You see that young man has nothing in his hands, did everything the officer said, and still lost his life. So excuse me if I'm not okay with somebody who puts resist in their bio on Twitter taking the time to justify a child being murdered, because that's what happened. I don't give a fuck about the police officer. I don't give a fuck about his family or his feelings right now. I care that once again, a family is burying their child. This is another reason why I'm going to go off later on the shanking us from the far left type Justice Dems. Because all they want to talk about is financial stuff and student loans when, like I said in plenty of vlogs, that we are too busy shopping for coffins over caps and gowns. So tonight's topic is going to be about imbalance, what's causing so much imbalance, what we can do to fight this imbalance. But I am definitely going to talk about it all. And welcome to the chat, Brandon. I'm telling you, I wish I could avoid it, but unfortunately, being black on Twitter means I'm going to be exposed to all the pain. Every time there's a new video out, whether it was Ahmaud Arbery being chased down by those racists and gunned down, whether it was George Floyd, which really broke me. That day literally broke me. I did the Stop Killing Us blog soon after watching that video because it was all I could think about. Him crying out for his mother with his last breaths. 9 minutes and 29 seconds of that man being murdered. And his asshole murderer gets the due process that my people are never fucking afforded. So when I see somebody who follows me or follows other people that are in my orbit on social media with resist in their bios, and their first instinct is to have the trash take that is somehow the 13-year-old who's dead's fault for dying, I'm not okay with that. And what I'm doubly not okay with is when I call out these fake ass resistors, having somebody who should know better jump into my mentions with a resume. Nobody asked you for your resume, Karen. If you are doing everything you have had the time to write to me about, you would be smart enough to realize that I didn't call you out by name. I called out that hashtag resistance, and I'm very pissed off that I have to give caveats because everybody gets stuck in their fields. If I didn't say directly that you, as a resistor, are wasting time and are fake, there's no reason for me to have to pat you or anybody else on the head. If you're out there calling your senators, if you're out there helping people get to the polls, you do not fit the resistors I was talking about, do you? But because you felt defensive and then you kept going on about how you wasn't defensive, I didn't block you, but you came so freaking close because I'm tired. And it is always a certain demographic that you want like pats in your head for being bare minimum humans. That's not going to happen no more. We literally just lost 2 lives that were way too young back to back. And this is not even because we're still finding out about that 16-year-old who they lied and said he had a gun and a knife. So 3 lives. Then you have all these irrational bouts of gun violence going on. And I'm sorry that I can't say, oh, not all resistors, so that you don't feel like I'm targeting you. But I am just so over people right now who think that their feelings are more important than calling out these racists. Because like I said, I do not have kudos or a cookie or a head pat for anybody who takes my words to heart if you're not the direct person I'm talking to. If I didn't call you out by name, then don't come at me. Just like I'm not going to not all white people, because if you're a white person doing the right thing, you shouldn't feel targeted by what I say. Just like I don't feel targeted when idiots talk about my people, because I know they're idiots. But you come out your field, and like we've said since I can remember as a child, and it's a long-term saying, a hit dog will holler. So if the first thing you do when I talk about racism, or if I talk about a certain resistance, is jump into my mentions to defend your acts, you need to check your defense mode. And you need to understand that's exactly what you did. But some people can't see past their privilege. And that's one of the reasons why we have such imbalance. I am stuck between people who are open-faced racists, who think it's okay to accost the black people for being in their neighborhood, who think it's okay to justify the death of a 13-year-old child because his parents should have been whatever. And then I have people who swear they're doing the right thing, but you can't say anything that might hurt their feelings because then their conditional allyship comes under question. And I'm sorry, I'm not calling people my allies anymore. You have to prove that shit, and even then, because I feel like everybody who pulls that I'm your ally card are always doing it with conditions. As long as I don't hurt your feelings, as long as what I say doesn't strike a nerve with you, you're my ally. That's not how this works. You don't get to be allies with somebody just because they say what you like. And that's why I'm always cautioning people who get on social media talking about, oh, I want as many followers as you. No, the fuck you don't. Because every day it's a new set of problems. We are grown people. You would think that being over a certain age, you would get over this clique bullshit where you've got to fight with each other for a difference of opinion. We do not all come from the same backgrounds. We do not all share the same ideals or viewpoints. The thing about Twitter and the thing that was supposed to be beautiful about being human is despite having differences of opinion, we could come together on some things. And that is not saying to justify people who are blatant haters. I am the first to tell you that if you show bigotry in any way, shape, or form, I don't want nothing to do with you. But if somebody says, I like the color purple, another person goes, I really don't like that color, it clashes on me, it's not a reason to do World War III, and some of y'all do that. So that's exhausting. But then when you have people follow you, especially after you do something that goes allegedly viral, they like you for one thing you say, but when you keep on talking, and I'm going to keep on talking because I'm very opinionated, I get into more fights with people who followed me for one thing, but don't like another. And it is so freaking annoying. And it causes so much imbalance because I'm not going to just talk about stuff that directly affects me as a black woman. I'm fighting bigotry on all ends. I've lost friends within the LGBT community because of the way I call out turfism. I do not like the fact that transgender America has to live in fear of their own brothers and sisters who should understand what it means to be targeted. They are dying at insane rates. And I'm seeing women, especially, who should know better, who know the violence of being a lesbian, utilizing hate talk because they want to identify gender fluidity as this or that, ignoring biology. So we are not going to have that. That kind of imbalance doesn't sit right by me. So I call that crap out too. And I will walk away. I've walked away from family, so I will fucking walk away from an internet friendship without looking back. There is no relationship worth salvaging for hate. None. And I'm saying that right now. I don't care if we've been friends offline. I don't care if we've been friends online for years. The moment you indulge in the desecration of a fellow human being because of their looks, because of who they love, how they identify, their skin color, or even worse, you don't see color for some weird ass reason, I can't fuck with you. And the reason I can't fuck with you is because you don't view our humanity. And I don't need people like that in my corner. I want a better world. Not just for me, but for everybody. I'm tired of a world where in the space of a week, we lose so many lives to not just gun violence, but to people who are supposed to be trained to do their job better than what they do. And right now, that is the freaking reality for so many of us. We are losing people on a scary basis right now. And I'm sick of it. I'm tired of acting like this isn't an issue that needs to be addressed. I'm tired of people acting like we can just forget the fact that not only in Minnesota did a young man lose his life while on the phone with his mother, but a 13-year-old child. A day after I did a memorial service to all the lives we've lost to police brutality is added to that pile. And a 16-year-old on top of that. I'm tired. Then we have a 19-year-old shooting up a FedEx facility. But the news isn't going on about that anymore since we found out it was yet again another 19-year-old with ready access to an assault weapon. Which, like I said, I'm tired. There is no reason for us not to push for gun reform right now. Beyond reasonable to push for the George Floyd Police Reform Act. There is just so many things we should be on the ball about and not arguing on Twitter about, oh, she talked about resistance, she must be talking about me. But some of y'all are performative and you don't like being called out for your performance. But when your performance interferes with my reality, when you're too busy saying Black Lives Matter loudly to drown out the conversation I'm trying to have about my life, yeah, that's a problem. And there's just so much going on, and so many of y'all are freaking fighting each other instead of doing the right thing. We have the immigration cap issue that I know everybody wants to weigh in about expert style about what's going on with Joe Biden and whether or not what he's doing is right and wrong. And like I said, I don't personally agree with anybody targeting immigrants after the last 5 years we've been through in this country, where families were being ripped the fuck apart by ICE, who were acting like attack dogs for Trump's racist ass administration. And I've said it before, that if we keep kowtowing to these racist talking points of the right wing, it just elevates their purpose. So we need to be careful, no matter how much people think, oh, this will help Biden win over some of these Midwest people who they're unsure about supporting him. Fuck those people. I'm tired of people being dehumanized so that we can make some fucking racists feel more comfortable about voting for people who don't end up having 500 plus million people dead. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of the logic behind this. But another thing I'm sick of is watching people who should be more rational call for the abolition of our policing system without realizing what are we going to replace it for. Because yeah, as much as I'm not okay with the current state of policing as it is, period, as a mother, as a Black American in general, I also am a survivor. I was sexually assaulted at 14 years old. I carry that life sentence with me. The guy who did it didn't go to jail for my attack. He's in jail for other violent crimes, no surprise there. But I survived a violent, life-altering crime. And I know that because I've done that, I see where people like that don't need to be out hurting other people. Because that's what he went on to do. He went on to hurt many more people. And I don't want to walk the streets and run into somebody like that again. And I don't want him hurting other little girls. So I want people to think before they talk about abolish this and abolish that. Because you think you're helping Black people by saying abolish the police instead of saying we need to reform this from the ground up. We need to take the money and get better training. We need to kick out the people with multiple infractions. We need to weed out anybody with domestic violence charges, with any acts of aggression, because they should not be in a job where they are serving the public. Why is it when I worked cashier and back when I was a teenager, they strictly told us that we had to be courteous, that we had to put up with a smile no matter how rude or obnoxious the customer was. It was on our job to provide the best courteous service to these customers. And anybody who's worked retail knows that you get some of the most nastiest, just ridiculously revolting people. I worked at a store in Florida. And while I had some of the sweetest people, I had some swamp things come in on my line a few times. I had people that I was nearly going to cuss out and fight. Hey, sweetie, definitely. And I just get exactly, Brandon, that whole Miss Millie attitude too. But I don't think people understand that if you expect somebody that in retail to provide customer service, even if we're being screamed on because something's not in stock, even if we're being completely disrespected because people assume that somebody working in that job somehow has a lower IQ or less aspirations, not even caring about our age, because I was only 17 going on 18 and I was constantly being screamed on by rude ass people, which is why I would not go back to retail without a damn good reason. But you expect more out of your cashiers and your stock people and people who have to work front-end customer service than you do a police officer whose literal job is to protect and serve. We are training these people to view human beings as animals to hunt. We are allowing them a police union that gives them immunity to do this. And nobody is saying, we need to change the system. And those of us who are saying it are being drowned out by those who want to slogan abolish the police without thinking that A, that's going to lose us elections we cannot afford to lose right now. B, replace it with what then? You want to just abolish it. Okay, we abolish the police by this far left idea. Crime still happens, especially in Black neighborhoods. People are being murdered, killed, raped, robbed. We can't call the police anymore. There ain't no more police. They've been abolished. What the fuck are we supposed to do then? Does it make it better that calling the police puts us at risk too? No, but only one solution helps us get people who will arrest the bad guys and not fucking view us as the bad guys when we're calling them for help. I want people to think my life, my child's life, is not fucking wrapped up in the slogan. It is not as cut and dry as just abolish the system. And I need people to understand the imbalance that they cause when they do that. I don't care how famous you are. If you're using your platform, when you have enough pull and influence to say abolish instead of reform, without understanding the effects that this will have on the people you claim to be talking up for, then I don't want you speaking for me. Because you're not thinking like a black person who has to survive in this racist ass country. You're not thinking as a black person who's had to survive within our own community. Because as much as I love my people, I don't love my people, and they know it. They know why. And I'm sick and tired of playing these games. Not all skin folk are your kinfolk is another good saying that we pass along ourselves. Because we know that for everybody who will have your back, there's another one waiting to stick that knife in it because they can't have what you have, or because they are just born to be nasty. And while we do try to have more solidarity because we've kind of had to, being forcefully implanted into our country, our roots and our culture developed here that bonds us, we know that we cannot always trust within our own community. And there is a lot of stuff that we can't even tackle within our own community, hate-wise, because we're too busy surviving the white supremacy that's literally snuffing us out, that allows people to put resist in their bio, but yet justify the 13-year-old killing of a brown-skinned child. I'm over this imbalance, y'all. I'm over with people being okay, calling our children men when they're children. My son is 16 years old. There is nothing mannish about him. I don't care how much facial hair he has. I don't care how tall he gets. Until he is of legal age, you will not call my son a man. I do not call him a man of the house. I yelled at family when they tried to do that shit. He was only 12 years old when they tried that shit with me. When I finally got my own place, was setting up things for him and they was like, oh, I guess your son's the man of the house. No, the fuck he's not. Men in the house pay their bills. Men in the house are legal age. That's the problem that I see a lot of people doing. We want our kids to shoulder burdens that they really shouldn't. So we make them adults before they're fucking adults. And I'm not doing that with my child. First of all, it's irresponsible with him being on the spectrum to rip his childhood away from him. But second of all, even if he had the normalcy, and I hate using normalcy because there's nothing abnormal about being autistic, but even if he had the so-called childhood I had, I didn't get to be a child. I'm the typical Gen X latchkey kid who had to take care of the house at home while my mom did whatever. I didn't want that life for my child. I wouldn't want that life for any other child either. And that is a problem that we in my community do with our kids. We expect them because we know the shit they're going to go through being black in this country to act like adults sooner than later. And I'm not going to do that to him. I refuse. And I'm sick and tired of seeing our kids be called men, be called thugs, be told they're acting too grown when they're little girls just wanting to look pretty or wear makeup. It's funny, we have all these beauty blogs and TikTok stars, Lily White, that get away with so much more. But our little girls can't even freaking dance in front of their camera without people trying to say they're too grown. Stop it. Our kids aren't grown, they're children. And we've got to be the ones to stop the narrative of calling our children grown. Because when we do it, they see no problem in doing it. And it leads into that spiral. It's like an avalanche of negative. They see us calling our kids adults way before they're adults. And then they start justifying why they seem threatening, perceived threats. A 13-year-old shouldn't be a perceived threat to anybody. As big as my child is, because he's almost 6 foot now, I know that I could tickle him and subdue him. Because he's a child. But you say that to a screaming, yelling LEO who only sees this big, tall, precious baby who doesn't really react well to being yelled at in the first place. And that is my living nightmare. So yes, I went off this morning. I went off on the people who dared to actually tweet out the shitty take that was somehow that their child's fault. for being out so late or wearing a shirt and some other asinine reasons. But then I went off on the fact that a lot of you fuckers have resist in your bio. A lot more of you have BLM in your profile, and you need to take it out. Because we know by now that no black or brown lives matter with you. And you're not fooling us with your nonsense. But I'm telling you, this week has just been exhausting. The gun violence. Like I said, Senator Horn is the only representative so far in Michigan, and we had a shooting here in Michigan. They're still coming out with the details of it. It was at a mall. But the gun violence issue isn't going to go away. And we really do need a federal mandate that states will have to abide by that will stop putting assault weaponry into the hands of civilians. I'm not accepting this anymore. There's no reason why a 19-year-old should be able to be armed enough to go into a FedEx facility and murder a bunch of people. There's no reason why we should be afraid to go to the movies, go to concerts, go to dance clubs, go to freaking church. But that is a reality in this country. And there is no other country currently with the amount of deaths to gun violence in our country that aren't in the middle of a fucking war. And the issue is we allow these people to stake all of this into some amendments, which last I checked, they're called amendments. They're not called steel enstonements. It means they can be amended to keep and protect citizens. So all these people who are willing to take pictures of themselves in American flag clothing, which last I checked is not supposed to be a thing, holding weapons like the fucking children of the corn. I am so over it. Exactly, dear. We have had 4 years of a giant child. And I get that we're emotionally stunted from it, but it's not okay. There's just way too many acts of violence since fucking start of 2021. And yeah, I know 2020 will probably have a run for its money no matter what. But this year should have been better than it was. We had hope. We watched as we defeated this Keystone Cops fascism for actual competent leadership. Biden and Harris are working their asses off to put out big fires left by this administration. And all I see are people at each other's throats, asking them to handle stuff that should be handled by our local electors. And I'm sorry, if your local elector is anything like Mayor Lightfoot, which I used to have her back until yet again another youth under her jurisdiction died to shady ass practices of the police, and she sides again with the wrong side. We need to vote people like that out. And no, I don't mean sitting home like some of these Justice Dems who want to shank us from the back, or voting in the Justice Dem who's just going to fill a slot that somebody who will actually do the work will fill. We need people like give a fuck, that want to write legislation, that will hold people to the fire when a child is murdered, who won't say, I seen the justification. There is no justification why somebody who is legally trained or supposedly trained to de-escalate a situation thinks to pull their gun and fire on a kid. None. And you will never, ever, ever convince me as a human being that this is okay. I lived in New York during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I lived in New York before it became the tourist central that it did, where you did not want to be in even Times Square at night. That New York. So I know what violent crime is. Bernie Getz was a dividing topic in our city because there were people who understood why he carried a gun on the subway and did vigilante justice, and there were other people who were afraid that this was going to start more people doing the same thing. So trust me when I say I know what it's like to live in the fucking Wild Wild West. But even coming from those days where you couldn't wear your jewelry out, where wearing a purse meant there was a good chance you were going to get it snatched, if not your whole damn arm off, doesn't freaking mean that I want it where people aren't feeling safe, period. And it doesn't mean that I'm okay with the current state of affairs. It means I understand that for the longest time, we allowed the police union to wield way too much power. Way too much power over how an officer is addressed and written up when they step out of line. We have allowed them to push and lobby for people who won't cross them at all when it comes to punishment for these crimes. And that has to stop. Because we are losing babies at this point. We are losing. A 13-year-old has barely lived their lives. A 16-year-old. How many more children do we have to put in the ground from their violence before it becomes too many? This country has a very sordid history with how black and brown children have been treated. Many have been lost to this corrupt judicial system. George Steiny, 14 years old, he was murdered on my birthday in 1944. When I looked at his story, them setting him up for supposedly raping and murdering 2 girls with no evidence, his little body strapped in an electric chair, 14 years old, murdered by a system that didn't even give him a shot to prove his innocence. We have a sordid history of 2 Americas when it comes to how we're viewed by the justice system, how we're viewed by law enforcement, and that shit needs to stop. And it comes with not only the only abolishment I want to see right now is the current police union. Because while I will never be anti-union because of my family being union for auto workers, I am not okay with the current police union. I'm not okay with the way they behave. I am not okay. Hey, Beans, welcome to the chat. I'm not okay with the way they cover for the rampant abuse and the way these officers can just jump counties like Terrence Crutcher's murderer when she decided, oh, I'll just move over to the next county and continue to be in law enforcement. If you cannot handle your job to the point where any fear prompts you to fire upon somebody or not know the difference between a gun and a taser, you do not deserve to wear that badge. And I shouldn't have to be arguing this point after all the deaths just recently. We don't even have to look back more than 2 days. So it's exhausting. And the only reason why that 19-year-old mass shooter in Illinois didn't get taken in is because he killed himself. But so many people can point to the fact that there have been plenty of mass shooters who have been brought in alive. They were definitely threats. They were definitely dangerous. Kyle Rittenhouse traveled 2 freaking states over to cause mayhem and murder. And he is being lauded as a hero by some people to the right and actual police unions who donated to that little bastard being off. He took lives. He is a little threat to living people. Yet let a child walk around with an airsoft rifle and allegedly a knife because that young 16-year-old that died, the body cam all of a sudden it wasn't on. And nobody says anything because our kids aren't viewed as actual viable living children. That shit has to stop. All of this imbalance has to stop. And exactly, it's the one thing that drives me nuts because in their heart, unions should be a good thing. When people are being worked and not getting their raises, when people are being treated to unfair conditions, you're supposed to be able to go to your union to get help for that. And for the most part, most unions, that's what they do. They are on point for taking care of workers when they have health and medical and actual wage disputes. But we've allowed certain unions to become out of control with power to the point where in Boston, they literally covered for a fucking pedophile who utilized his position within the police to prey on kids. And this is not the first time a union has overstepped their bounds. When I was younger with the Teamsters, we actually created acts against them because of that. We used to laud Rudy Giuliani because he pushed for the RICO Act before he became a fucking corrupt stooge. So don't tell me we can't take on these unions. It's that people just don't want to do the work to do it. And I'm sorry, I can't get behind that anymore. Because they are the main reason, along with other lobbyists like the NRA, that keep our country constantly in chaos. Because as long as these right-wing nut jobs are full of rage, fear, and easy access to guns, all of our lives are in danger, constantly. And that's how they want it. Chaos keeps people down, keeps them in their comfortable status quo, and keeps people too ignorant to fight against their power grabs. And that is the structure that has been set up in this country for years now. And they fear anybody who steps out and says, we can't keep doing this. We need and deserve better. And that is where we should be right now. We should be constantly striving to be better than we was even a year ago. But we can't get there because so many people are still caving to groups of people who already dehumanize others, who already see a nation that was literally founded by immigrants, that's economy came from stealing people from their land and kicking the people who are already here off their land, denying people who just want to come over here and make better opportunities and grow our economy. It is so freaking twisted. Oh, I hope your dad's okay. But yeah, it amazes me the amount of idiocy that I see when it comes to politics and who we keep trying to bring over and appease. I don't want to appease these people anymore. They have openly shown us for the last few years that they will always choose violence. They will always choose hatred. They will always choose bigotry because that's all they have going for them. I said in a tweet a few days ago, if we weren't held back by this hateful demographic that just holds on to the fears that somehow they will be obsolete by acting like human beings, by treating everybody like human beings, where would we be right now? What strides could we be making as a people right now if we let go of the bigotry and the hatred that holds us back? And a lot of people, as usual, was like, that's a good point and stuff. But I really would love to know from people who really think that it is okay to hold on to hate. What has that hate gotten you? You're bitter. You're angry. You're constantly looking for a fight. You're obviously not happy because if you were, this wouldn't be it. You're constantly seeking to raise up yourself by holding other people down. And all you've done is put an anchor around us all from better. And I'm sick of it. But I'm also sick of the people that don't understand that even though we all have shackles and around our ankles from this, there are people who are already at the bottom and we are drowning. We are being suffocated and we cannot breathe. And we do not need your fake platitudes. We don't need you saying Black Lives Matter in one breath, but saying, well, I can't really confront racism because it bothers me and I don't want to be uncomfortable in the other. Because a lot of yous do that. A lot of yous are really fucking performative. As long as you get clicks and hearts and views for it, yous will say whatever you want. But then you come out with a shitty take blaming the 13-year-old child for being murdered. So I'm going to need people to understand that I'm not fucking with you fakers. And that means you far left people too. And I am, like I said, I'm sticking to my pledge not to call out people by their names because, like Beetlejuice, it seems to summon them. But I am sick and tired of seeing these Justice Dems, these far left phonies, primary, actually hardworking, long-term Democrats like Representative Maloney is constantly being harassed by these idiots. She is one of the third-ranked politicians within the party because she actually does the work and gets the work done. But these people see her as a sitting target because of ageism and other stupid stuff. And instead of doing actual reach out, instead of going after districts that we severely need to flip, they go after what they think are easy targets, like a certain young woman who I feel like she would be a better influencer than a politician did. But unlike that person, Representative Maloney is not just going to fold to some young idiot who thinks it's a-okay to attack her because she is allegedly a woman of color too. Y'all are going to fuck around and find out with black politicians, and you're going to get your feelings hurt. And I'm telling you right now, if I did not have my mental issues, if I knew I could handle the stress of it, I definitely would run. Because there are a few motherfuckers here that I would gladly primary. And unlike the current state of affairs, politics-wise, I don't believe you need millions of dollars, especially in the digital age, to win a fucking election. Stacey Abrams was on the ground with whatever donations she could gather to get people voting. We can make a lot of change if we put in the effort. But the problem is we have way too many chaos agents who benefit when things are bad, who benefit when they complain, paid contrarians who, no matter what we do to make strides, always want to see us in the mire because that's how they sell their books. That's how they get their articles published. They are the most detrimental to us having actual progress, yet they're the loudest ones calling themselves progressive. When we talk about the fact that a child just got murdered, we're being drowned out by, we need our student loans paid off. And it's like, what? I just don't understand how you think your cause, which is financial, is more important than another life lost. But we are seeing in real time everyone from hipster hamster looking bro to actual politicians tweeting out about fucking student loans when we are losing lives at an unprecedented basis to gun violence. And on top of that, still dealing with a pandemic that's taking lives. A new strain coming out. So many people directly impacted by this. So excuse me if I'm not asking anymore for people to stop supporting these people. Because if you're even using one of their slogans, I know I can't trust you. I'm going to stay the fuck away. I can't afford to waste time with people who don't care about the suffering humanity over lining their pockets. I understand that going to school shouldn't break you. I told Greg the other day that I cannot currently stand the way the current education system in our country is, and globally anyway. I hate the fact that people are put into a competitive situation where even if they don't understand what they're being taught, they can barely speak up about it because they're afraid they're going to be penalized for it when they're fucking students. I hate that there's a cap by years on where you should be. I started learning better once I got out of school. I am learning currently 3 different foreign languages at my own pace, and it's actually being retained. I understand that this doesn't work for everybody, but as we've seen from just the way our fellow Americans are about the basic things, it's not working on a national level. And we need a stricter look at why. And we need schools to be teaching facilities no matter what your age, no matter what your income. But we can't get there because people are still being gunned down because of the color of their skin. And I'm sorry, if I've got to pick a lane to be in right now, I'm gonna pick the lane that keeps my kid out of a fucking coffin over the lane that worries about paying for college right now. Because I am sick to death with worry that I'm not gonna have that issue because some idiot who has the ability to is gonna end our lives. I'm telling you something very personal. When Axiom isn't here with us, and he can attest to this, my screen doors stay locked now. Everything stays on complete lockdown because I am so scared. And it's not of being robbed. It's of a wellness check. It's of somebody just deciding they're going to no knock and burst into my house. And I know that my screen door isn't like made of wrought iron steel. It isn't going to stop a battering ram. But it makes me feel just a little bit safer knowing that somebody can't just pull open my screen door. That's how scared I am for myself and my son right now. And nobody should live like this. It is hell. It is torture. And it is a reality for Black and brown America. It's a reality for anybody with mental health issues. It is a reality for women living alone. It is a reality for trans women, for LGBT, period, depending on what region you're in. So many of us are living in fear right now. And we can't even begin to tackle the things that have us laying awake at night, wondering if we are going to be the next hashtag. Because we have so many people fighting against our basic human rights. I want to be able to focus on places like Arkansas with their ridiculous laws, and Alabama with their Confederate Heritage Month. I would love the luxury of being able to debate why we should have decent health care for everybody here. But I am too busy trying to not become the next fucking hashtag to make sure that my child isn't the next fucking hashtag. And I'm sorry, in the list of priorities, that has to be at the top because that is the most threatening to my existence right now. Nothing financial matters to me because I could end up in a fucking body bag and my murderer get off because they felt threatened. I need you to hear this reality because far too many of you keep making excuses to why your pet peeve is more important than my reality. And too many of you are calling yourself Dems with justice or putting a rose emoji in your name without understanding that they fought wars over roses. And if you're going to fight a war against me, you better be prepared to lose because I've had over 400 years of training for your brand of fuckery and white supremacy. Because make no difference. I don't care if you happen to be my shade and pulling the nonsense from your far left bros and broettes. You're just a tool of white supremacy, just like the porch ancestors who thought that because they got to sleep inside with the master, that they were just a little bit better than the ones picking cotton. Don't be the porch person. Don't. Because at the end of the day, you're as disposable as I am, but you're more of a useful tool for their agenda, which doesn't save our lives. It is just so exhausting. And I'm glad your dad's okay. I know that I trip over air beans. I don't know what it is about me. It's just really crazy the way I get klutzy sometimes. And then there are times where I surprise myself with some graceful moves. I don't know. I'm just a 5'3" ball of weirdness. But it is. And it's tiring because calling them out, you got to deal with, oh, you're being racist. You said white people. And it's like, you know what? I don't care anymore. Because white people who are doing the right thing, they know I'm not targeting them. I'm not going to use my relationship as an excuse either, because I don't view that as hey, I'm dating this person, so all of them can't be bad. I wouldn't even say that about my people. I'm a black person, and I know not every black person is good. Just like I know not every black person is bad. So why is it I have to give credence towards a demographic whose whole history is taking things from people, telling them that they're less than, literally dehumanizing us, but somehow calling them by their skin color hurts their feelings, and I'm supposed to watch it? Nah, I ain't got time for that kind of sensitivity. Y'all done dehumanized my people for over 400 years. You dehumanize others because they don't fit a standard that you set. And then you want me to feel bad about saying the term white person? Nah, that's not going to happen. And you can call me racist. I legit don't care. I don't get upset anymore when people go, well, what you said was racist against me, because racist is a systemic structural power issue, which I don't have over anybody. I can be bigoted. You want to call me a bigot? Fine. I'm working on it. But the last 5 years has made me not like or trust a certain demographic. And y'all gonna have to earn that back. And if you think I'm bigoted for it, but I'm going to tell you right now, what I'm not going to do is get all up in my feels because some oversensitive white person says I'm racist because I've called out your racism, because I'm not going to twist myself up in the pretzel with somebody trying to change the narrative so that I'm not talking about the issue. Too many of us get wrapped up in that too. We get pulled in by the sea lioning tactic, where they're like, well, talking about racism. And I got into it a few months ago with this woman who swore she did Native American studies, and I should have known right there. That was a tell. I'm sorry, it's going to sound like a generalization, but certain older white women, when they pull that nonsense where they talk about how they study indigenous and Native American studies, almost always fuck up when it comes to talking about racism. And they always have all that smoke for black women. And I got into a back and forth with one. And I realized after that, I'm not going to give these people my energy no more. The best thing I can do for my health and mental sanity is just to block them, because they tend to show their whole ass. And exactly, Brandon. Same thing happened to me. So many people that I liked and trusted came out as either full-on MAGA conservatives or conservatives where they're like, well, it won't be that bad for you people. And it's been like this for years. Before I wrote my first sci-fi novel, Axiom, I put several of my friends as archetype characters into the book because I loved and respected them. Come to find out that they're nothing but pretty much trash. I walked away from friendships from plenty of conservative friends, and instead of going, you know what happened? They played the victim. It was my fault for not wanting to stay friends despite differences of opinion. A differences of opinion is pizza toppings, not my right to exist as a human being. And it was the same for all my fucking former ass racist friends from Staten Island too. And I'm not going to say not all, because plenty of y'all saw the back and forths we had on Facebook and said nothing because you were a bunch of fence-sitting scaredy cats. But people that I used to run and kick it with, calling Mike Brown a thug, saying he got what he deserved. Horrible things about Trayvon Martin and Eric Garner. And I know Staten Island is the worst borough of all 5. And I know that it's probably one of the most racist, even though it's full of freaking Italians. Make that shit make sense. But it hurt to see people who I got fucking pictures hugging them, smiling, thought they were my friends, that I had their back and they had mine, say the most horrible racist things, not only against black Americans, but against the Syrian refugees. And that's why I decided I ain't fucking with them no more. When they invited me to the 20-year reunion, I think it was, I went to Canada. I don't want to hang out with those people. And I made it clear I didn't have the money. Somebody offered to pay, and I said no. And I'm sure they would have paid for me and my son to sit up in Staten Island so they could say, look at 10. We hung out with her. Fuck all of y'all. I don't care if you see it. I don't care if I hurt your feelings. You don't care about my life, and I'm not going to be your prop. It is okay to walk away from past friendships when your friends have shown that your life don't matter to them. When they see your skin tone as something that can be debated. When they see other brown skin tones as something that should be feared. I had a woman that I really respected in high school talk about how she was scared of Syrian refugees who went through bombings themselves. And that's when I knew I couldn't stay friends with people like this, because they will always rationalize and justify their fears over innocent lives. They're not seeing the devastation and destruction of our lives at all. We are collateral damage to them. They are channelizing their inner ancestors. And I don't have time to kiss up and try to be friends with people like that. And I won't do it. Because that is the most imbalance you can get. When you're trying to keep your life steady and survive, but you're too busy leaning over and over and over to appease people who don't see you as human in the first place. We need to stop doing that. That is not our place. We are not our ancestors, and we do not owe it to them to put their feelings first. We do not owe it to them to hold their hands in friendship when they were ready to watch us die. I am not okay with holding on to relationships that are toxic to me, whether it's through blood or through friendship. I have walked away, and I will continue, because starting over, as tough as it is not impossible. And a lot of people try to make it out to be, oh, you don't want to end our friendship. We've been together years. So I can make a new friend. Friendships come and go. You want to have long-lasting relationships. I get that. But when you are so diametrically opposed, is it really worth saving? There's no relationship in my life that is worth eroding my soul for. None. And y'all need to remember that. Because there are too many people that think, oh, you can be just a little okay with my bigotry. Oh, you can be just a little okay with my violence. Oh, you can be just a little okay with my dehumanization. And you can't. Because if they can do that to a stranger, they'll do it to you. And some of you will let them do it to your face because you think that somehow will save you from their wrath. And that's not how abusers work. They're just saving you for last. I'm telling you, exactly, Beans. I am so grateful for the doctor that I'm seeing for my mental health, because she helped me with a lot of the things I had to do to get my life back to good. I was in the most toxic situation with my own mother to the point where I wanted to not be here anymore. And I realized that I could not sustain that. And my doctor helped me understand that it is okay to walk away from things that are draining and toxic. And exactly, hey Capricorn, I just need people to understand that it is okay to walk away. It's not going to be easy. I felt guilty for the first few months actually, because it's almost been 2 years now. And I realized the reason I felt guilty is because as her child, I was always taught that it's my job. It's my place to put up with her. I'm the oldest. And it was so freeing to have a doctor tell me, that's not what you have kids for. That's not your job. That is not your place. It is okay for you to realize that she is burdening you mentally. And it is not healthy, the situation. And that if I can walk away from the woman that gave birth to me, people who aren't blood related, you still have a chance. So I say this as I get ready to wrap this show up. I want the people that are currently in my life. If I didn't, I wouldn't fuck with you. I tell people all the time, I literally am a cat trapped in a human's body. If I don't want to fuck with you, you gotta know. Because I don't bother. I don't pretend to like people. I'm at the age where I really don't care. But I am not afraid to walk away from a friendship or any kind of relationship that is toxic, that is draining, that only seeks to amplify your feelings over reality. And I have no time for bigotry. And I hope that everybody gets to a point where you understand that, because the less we tolerate this nonsense, the less it'll be prevalent. And right now, with all the violence, all the hatred, we need to be less tolerant of people who embrace that. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. It has been a really good hour. I want to thank everybody that participated in the chat. Brandon, Beans, Capricorn, Axiom, as always, thank you so much for joining in. I will be on again next week for a new Bonnet Chronicles. I also will be trying my hardest to do a new Witch's Path soon. Now that I got the new sound studio set up, I should be able to make clearer, more concise videos for that. And I am so excited. As a witch, I just want people to understand culturally and historically where we come from. And I feel like I want to do the series justice. So I'm going to take my time and put it out each week. So I really do appreciate you. But I'm going to get ready to wrap it up. Get ready for my friend's stream. He does Legend of Zelda sometimes. I'm not sure if he's on tonight or not. But other than that, I will see you all online on social media and off. Love y'all. Good night.